Happy Monday, everyone. Okay, well, thanks for all of the comments on last Friday's video. And I had mentioned in that video that this project with this big sign, it's not that big, but it's a fairly good sized sign, might take 3 or 4 weeks. Well, I've decided to do something different. All of this week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, at least, all going to be demos. I'm going to keep doing videos on this sign until it's done. So everything else, all the normal programming of Coffee and Questions for Monday and Wednesday, that's going to have to wait until this sign is done. So I don't want you guys to have to wait, and honestly, I want to get this thing done and out of here. So I'm just going to keep doing demo videos until this thing's done. At least 3 more videos, including today, maybe more. I just don't know, but I've got to get it done. So here's what we got. So where we left off on Friday is I just glued the board up. I put screws from the back side. You guys saw that. And then this morning I went ahead and did I did my edges here. I'm going to come around to that side of the bench actually. And I did my edges on 2 sides. I did this end and I did this side. And I used a series of different tools. Now you guys that really are meticulous, maybe furniture makers, probably have much better ways of doing this than what I did.
Hold on. You're bouncing. I'm not getting
But this came out pretty good. I'm gonna go back and putty those deals because I want this to be a nice smooth edge, which is actually, it's kind of smooth right now. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do the other side and show you how I went about it. Again, there's probably a much better ways to do it than what I do, but this is just the way I'm going to do it. So,
let me.
what?
Tell me where you're going to hold it so I can.
I'm going to put my I'm going to put the thing right here for right now because I'm going to start with my belt sander. I'm all over the place, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I warned you before.
Yeah, but
and you said okay.
Yeah.
Careful. They can hear you. Don't say what you were going to say. All right, so I'm gonna start and I'm gonna rough it out with my belt sander. This has got my 40 grit, just a used belt, 40 or 50 grit, something like that. Again, probably not the best way to do it, but this is the way I go about it. So we're gonna start with that and get this, kind of get it roughed out. I'll be going back and forth between my belt sander, my vibrator sander. In some cases, I might use the chisel and a hammer. And I may even use the little rasp in my drill. What?
We're good.
All right, anyway, did you get all the stuff I was saying? Oh, I am pushing the boundaries with the queen, I can tell. All right, here we go. I'm going to start this up before she says something that I'm going to regret. do on that. A couple things that I forgot to say on the intro when we first started. Number one, Bruce Peter had mentioned that on the comments that he thought this was going to be a two-sided sign. No, I'm definitely not going to carve the back side, which is, of course, is that exterior plywood. I'm not going to carve that. So hence I put the screws from the back side. So this is only a one-sided sign as far as carving goes. Second thing was, why did I cut these individually and then screw them together, and now I'm having to dress up the edges? Is because to get 1.5 inches thick, my bit had only is only so long, isn't quite long enough to cut that even in multiple passes and still have enough bit left in the router that it wouldn't get too much deflection and actually be somewhat dangerous. That's the reason I cut it in 2 pieces and then put them together, because I'm sure that is a question some of you might have as well. All right, so let me reposition this and finish this out. That's not too bad for a rough. I think I'm going to flip that over. I'd rather have, if I can help it, you saw me turn the sander up this way at one point, but if I can help it, I'd rather it going down so the sawdust is and the chunks are going toward the ground rather than into my face. So that's the reason I flipped it over on this side. The other thing is, I'm pretty used to this, guys. I've used these little belt sanders for so long that I'm pretty used to it, that I can keep them pretty much perpendicular to the surface of the board. One thing that you want to be careful of is too much of this. You want to have it straight up and down and as close to a 90-degree angle to the surface of the board as possible. Okay, now I'm going to turn it around. And I'm going to go down this edge, and the straight edge is actually the kind of the easy part. so that's not too bad. I might sand that down a little bit more. Let's get back to this end. Oh, which end was I working on? I get confused. All right, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to set that aside for the moment. I'm going to put this up in the vise. And we're going to work on these a little bit. So this is where my little vibrator sander. Huh?
Loud.
Yeah, this one's pretty loud actually. I'm going to put on some ear protection. That belt sander doesn't have a really loud sound like this little skill sander. So I'm going to put on some, Vic and I are wearing ear protection here. I think it'll be all right for you guys, but you might want to check your volume and turn it down a little bit if this is too loud for you. I think I need a new piece of sandpaper on there. So I'll switch that out for another piece of sandpaper. Then we'll finish this up. But I've got to get back in here as well, and that's where I may set up the drill with that little rasp and get back in these little corners. This is a 50 grit, by the way. I just got to get another one because I kind of wore through that one. So let me go to the shop and get another piece of sandpaper. We'll be right back. Okay, so I've kind of sanded this down. I put another piece of sandpaper on there and kind of sanded it down. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned that's like 40 or it's 50 grit, and that's that little octo sander. I really like that. But I still have little traces of glue in the edge there, in the corners, and I'm just using a rasp on my drill here. That's not too bad. And then I'll just use, this is just an old wood chisel. I kind of sharpened it up a little bit. I don't use chisels very much, but the more I'm watching some of these other woodworkers, you know, Matt and Mark and these guys that are just master woodworkers, of which I am not, guys. This is not a piece of fine furniture. So, you know, for me, if I just get close, that's as good as, for me, as I'm going to get for sign making. But I do want to kind of make sure I can get as much as I can within reason. And now when I end up putting an edge on this thing, I'm going to be using a round over bit probably a round over with a bearing, so it won't get all the way into that corner anyway. But I just, you know, there's any number of different ways that you can do this. I want to kind of try and get as much of that glue out of there as possible. That's not too bad. I may sand that down a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and smooth this out, guys. Get these other little corners and stuff. Get this done, and then we'll come back and we'll move on to the next step. But now you get kind of an idea. I want to putty these voids and stuff, and I'll do that on camera on the next step. So we'll be right back. Alright guys, so I've got this pretty much all sanded down, smooth on the edges. Now I just want to go back and I want to putty up some of these voids. There's a big void up here on top, and this, although this isn't too bad, but there's a couple little gaps there. I'm using the plastic wood. I'm using the walnut color, but it wouldn't really matter because this is all going to be sprayed black on the edge anyway. So I'm just going to, might have to add some acetone to that pretty soon. In case you guys didn't know that, stuff is acetone based. So if it gets dry, if you happen to be using this stuff and it gets dry, I just put a little teaspoonful of acetone in there, just a little drop or two of acetone, let it set for an hour or so, and then it softens right back up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around this whole thing. You guys can see kind of what I'm doing here. I'm going to go around this whole thing and fill all these gaps. Then once it dries, I'll sand it off with my little sheet sander, my little vibrator sander that I was using earlier. And I think this is going to be the end of this video. Like I said, I'm going to come around here. Like I said earlier, I'm just going to keep making videos on this thing till I get it done, so you guys can see the whole process. I don't want to delay it. So Wednesday will be the next steps in this. We'll do the edge on it. We'll start the layout and maybe start the carving. That I'm not sure. We'll just kind of see how far it goes. I'm trying to keep these videos to where they're no more than maybe a half-hour a piece for a lot of different reasons, but to respect you guys' time more than anything else. So, oh yeah, by the way, I had to spend about an hour answering messages on Facebook the other day. So remember guys, don't send me instant messages through Facebook. Go to my email, because there was some in there that were like 2 or 3 weeks old. I don't check Facebook messages much anymore, just simply because I don't have the time, but I answer like 15, 20, 30, 40 emails a day through my through my email, eric@makerwoodsign.com. So if you have pictures of sign covers of the day, or if you have a success story, or if you just have a question, something that I can help with, definitely send it to my email. Don't send it to me through Facebook. That is it. If you guys like this, give us a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, be sure and subscribe. We would love it if you would. And then click that little bell icon so you get notifications when we do a new video, which is 3 times a week. So we'll be back on Wednesday, and we'll move on to the next steps on this sign and get into some really good layout and maybe some carving on Wednesday and Friday. So everybody have a great week. We'll see you in a couple days. Bye.